Hi everyone and welcome back to part 21. So in this video we are going to integrate our backend and frontend. Okay. So if you have watched previous videos, then we have completed all of our auth APIs, okay, which are basically meant for logging in the user, registering a new user, and also resetting their password. So before moving on with chat API, okay, in which we will be basically sending different kinds of messages like text message, okay, and documents. So we'll have to basically integrate both front end and back end so that we can create multiple users, okay, and then we can initialize chat between them. Okay, so that's the way we are going to move forward. So let me just give you a demo of how this login functionality is going to work. So let's say I am entering this email and password, okay, and let me tell you that these are not any correct password. There is no entry for these records in our database, okay. So if I just pull up MongoDB, okay, let me show it to you, okay, then this is going to basically throw an error. So let's click on login button here, and as you can see we are getting this error message, email or password is incorrect. So this is the exact behavior that we also want in our application, okay. And in case the email or password is correct, email and password is correct, then the user will be able to log into their account, okay. So let's say in this case when the user forgets their password, okay, then they can just come over here on this forget password screen. They will be able to basically enter their email and click on send request. So after this, if this email is basically belonging to any user, then we'll send a reset email to their email address. As you can see here, I have just received this email 0 minutes ago, okay. So this is the template that we are basically using, and I have explained it to you in a previous video, okay, how to basically set up SendGrid to send these kind of emails. Now I'm just going to basically copy the link that we are getting here for reset password. So now when I paste that link here in my browser, then you can see it is taking us to this URL, which is basically where our application or this front-end application is running, okay. The only difference is that it is taking us to a new page, which is new password page, along with some kind of token, okay, in the search param. So now what we need to do here is we just need to choose our password and confirm new password. So I'm just going to take this new password 123456 like this, and then I'll click on update password. So as you can see here, we get this password resetted successfully message, and we are also kicked into our application, right? And I can just sign out of our application by clicking on this button, okay. So now if I try logging in with the same password, okay, let me show it to you. So I'm just going to again write here 123456, okay, then we'll be able to log into our application. Let's actually use incorrect password first of all. So here we are getting this email or password is incorrect, but if I remove this 7, okay, then we are able to simply log into our application, right? And you can also confirm in our database, okay. Let me connect to our database, and I'll show it to you that all of our password and OTPs, they are all encrypted just as we created them, okay. So here you can see we are not storing the exact password, we are storing it in an encrypted manner, okay. So I hope this is interesting to you, okay. And let's now actually begin to add this exact functionality on this app which is running on port 3000, okay. So I'm just going to close this demonstration app right now, okay. So if I click on this login button, okay, on this application which is running on port 3000, then you can see nothing is going to happen, and that is because we have not integrated it with our backend. That means there is no API call which is happening behind the scenes. So let's see how we can actually start adding that. So first thing that we have to do here is to go inside the Redux folder, okay, because we are going to create a new slice for authentication, okay. This is to basically maintain all of the properties, like if the user is logged in, what is the user's token, okay, that will be the access token, and also create thunk actions which will be basically used to handle asynchronous operations like calling our API for logging in or resetting the user's password, right? So I hope I made that clear. With that said, I'm just going to start creating a new slice here, okay. So first thing that we have to do here is to actually import this method create slice from Redux toolkit, okay, like this. And after that we can just start defining our initial state, okay. So I'm just going to define it like this. First property that I'll be basically storing here is if the user is logged in or not. And let's actually set it to false by default, because whenever a user is going to visit our application for the first time, the value for is logged in is going to be false, okay. Similarly, we also need to store the user's JWT token. So for that I'm going to introduce this new property which is called token, and the initial value for that is going to be just an empty string, okay. And I'll also add this property is loading, which is basically going to keep track of whether the form is getting submitted, okay, or if there is an error, okay, or if it's submitted successfully, just that. And after that we can basically start creating our slice using this create slice method, okay. So I'll just call it like this, and then we can pass configuration inside it. The first property that we have to pass here is the name of the slice, which is going to be auth, okay, and then the initial state. So here the key and the value is same, so we can just add it like this using the ES6 syntax, right. Now after this we have to introduce reducers here, okay. So the first one that I'm going to write here is login, okay. So we'll be basically calling it or dispatching it when we want to log in the user, okay. So what we need to basically do here is just update the value of is logged in and token. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'll write state dot is logged in, okay, and the value for this is going to be action dot payload dot is logged in, okay, like this. And similarly I'm also going to update the value of token, okay. So that will be state dot token is equal to action dot payload dot token. And similarly we can create a logout reducer as well, okay. So I'm just going to call it logout, or let's actually call it sign out, okay. That sounds better. You can name it whatever you want, just make sure you use that same when creating the Redux thunk action, okay. Now inside this sign out again we'll be getting these two, state and action, as the parameters. And now here we actually don't need to use this state, sorry, action. We are just going to need this state. So I'm just going to access this property is logged in, okay, and we just need to set it to false. And as for the token we just need to again set it to its initial value, that is an empty string, like this, okay. So I hope this is very clear, okay. Then the next step is going to basically export it from this file, okay. So I'm just going to make a comment here that we are exporting the reducer from here, okay. So I'll just write here export default then slice dot reducer, okay. Now after this we can start to create thunk actions here, okay. So the first thunk action that we'll need is for logging in the user, okay. That is what we are focusing on right now. So what I'm going to write here is I'll just write login, okay. So and we just need to create a higher order function here, okay. And a higher order function is basically one which is going to return another function from inside it, okay. So let's actually see it in action. So I'm just going to create a new function here and also export it at the same time, okay. So I'll write login user like this, and after that we'll be getting some parameters here like this, okay. So in order to log in a user will have to submit two values. First of all their email address, and the second one is their password. So I'm just going to take those values as this parameter form values, okay. And let me also explain it here that form values is going to be something like this, okay. It's going to be an object which is going to contain these two properties, email and password, okay. Now after this we just need to start making the API call here, and based on the response of the API call, whether it is successful or not, we'll have to call, or will have to basically dispatch these reducers, okay. So there is a blocker here that we don't know what agent we are going to use in order to make an HTTP request. And by agent I mean packages like you can use Axios or GOT or super agent, okay. Or you can also make a fetch request, simple, okay. Use fetch method, which is basically available inside JavaScript. So what we are going to do, we are going to actually use Axios for this project. Okay, so I'm just going to navigate to this folder which is called utils. Then I'll create a new file here which is going to be called axios.js. And the purpose of creating this file is to basically create an instance of Axios. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do here is importing Axios, okay, from the Axios package. And please make sure that you have installed it using npm, okay, otherwise your app is going to throw an error while running it. Then the next thing that we are going to do here is to basically create a base URL, and let me tell you what I mean by base URL. So base URL is the URL on which our application, or the backend application to be specific, is running. So in our case it's running on http localhost 3001. Okay, so let me show it to you. Here you can see this application is running on localhost 3001. So I'm just going to basically write our base URL to be this one, right? And I'm not going to basically define this constant here. It has to be defined in a configuration file. Okay, so I have already done this task for you. Make sure you also do this, okay, otherwise you will get an error. So just move to your config.js file, okay, and then write this line: create this constant base URL, set its value to whatever port your app is running on. Okay, by app I mean backend application here. Okay, and then just add this export statement in front of it. Now we are basically ready to import it here. So I'm just going to write import base URL from config. Okay, and after this the next step is to basically create an instance of Axios. So I'll just write Axios instance is equal to axios.create. Okay, there is a method which we can call, okay, and it's known as create. Here we just need to pass this base URL. Okay, so I'm just going to use the base URL that we introduced here. Okay, and after this we can actually add interceptors. By interceptors I mean middlewares or functions which are going to be run before the request is sent or after the response is received. Okay, so here we can just add a response interceptor. Okay, this will be to basically run some logic, okay, or some middleware to basically manage if some error happens. Okay, so in case there is no error, okay, we get a response, then we are just going to return it as it is. Okay, in case there is an error, then we are not going to return the exact thing that we are getting. We'll basically send this rejected promise, okay, as a result of the API call that we'll be making. So here I am just going to basically check a condition. I'll check if there is a response object on this error. Okay, if yes, then I'm going to return error dot response dot data. Okay, and I'm also going to add this or condition here. Okay, so in case there is, you know, no response inside the error that we are getting, then we'll just pass this custom message. Okay, or basically a hard coded message: something went wrong. Okay, so this is basically how we are setting up our Axios instance. And the next thing that we have to do here is just export this instance from here so that we can start using it in other files. So I'll just write this statement: export default Axios instance here. Okay, like this. And then inside this auth.js we just need to start using it. So I'll go to the top of this file. Okay, and then we are going to get this instance of Axios imported here. So I'll write import Axios from, okay, then just go 2 steps back, then move inside the utils folder, and then import this Axios file. Okay, now we are ready to start making the API call. So I'll just write, so before actually writing any API call here, we'll have to make sure that this is a thunk action, and for it to be, you know, thunk action, we'll have to return another function from here. Okay, and it's actually going to be an asynchronous function because we'll be making API call inside it. I hope that is very clear to you. Okay, and now we just need to start writing the API call. So I'll say await, then Axios dot post. And why I'm writing post, because as if you go back to our application, backend application, then you can see for this login endpoint or for any other endpoint, we are basically going to make a post API call. You can see the method here is post, so we'll have to choose this post method. Okay, then after that, as you can see, we have already configured this base URL. Okay, so we don't need to write that again, we just need to pass the path that is going to be matched after the base URL in order to reach this login controller. Okay, and as you can see, this auth.js is, if you open up this routes folder, okay, then you can see we are going to first of all reach this slash auth path. Okay, and after that we'll have to write this slash login. Okay, in order to basically route our request to this login controller or middleware. So I'm just going to write here slash auth slash login. Okay, and after that we need to pass the body. So for that we are just going to destructure form values, and as I have explained, we are going to make sure that our form values is an object which is containing just these two properties, email and password. Okay, and as a third thing, we can basically pass some headers here. Okay, so I'm just going to write this headers property here, and then we can pass an object for that. So the first thing that I'm going to write here is content type, and the value for this is going to be simply application slash JSON. Okay, like this. And we are actually going to add few more headers here. Okay, in other requests like authorization, when we'll be making an API call to a protected route, but that is not the case here. Okay, so we don't need to actually add any other headers here. So that's it. Now we'll be able to basically make an API call to this endpoint along with the form values that we'll be passing to this. And the next step is to basically process whatever the response that we are going to get from our API. Okay, so there can be two cases, whether it's going to be, it can be either successful or it can be a failure. Okay, so based on that, we have this then and catch block here. Okay, so inside this then block, we are basically going to introduce this callback function. Okay, and this is going to receive this response. Okay, and from this response, the first thing that we are going to do here is we'll just console log it. Okay, and nothing else. Let's just see what response we are getting back. Okay, and in the case there is some kind of error, then what we are going to do, we'll again write a function here. Okay, let's actually make it an anonymous function, no need for name because we are using it right away. And here in place of params, we'll be basically getting this error. Okay, and here also I'm just going to console log that error like this. Okay, so I hope this is very clear to you. Okay, now let's just format this document so that it's readable, and then we can just basically do the most important thing after this, and that is to basically add this auth slice to the root reducer. Okay, so you can come to this file, and then you can just write here auth. Okay, like this, and then I'll be writing auth, which is going to be imported from slices slash auth. Okay, that means this file. Okay, like this, but I'm just going to update its name to auth reducer. Okay, let's also do the same thing here, and let me also correct one thing. Okay, so here you can see we are going to dispatch a reducer from here. Okay, and for that we'll be getting that dispatch method from here. Okay, which is going to come as an argument to this second function, and there will also be a second property here which will be get state. This is also going to be a function which we can call to get the current state of our app. Okay, and I'll show you how we can use this. Okay, shortly. But if you go inside your app.js, then you can see we are getting this dispatch which is created inside our store file. I'm just going to remove that from here. Okay, and wherever we are using this dispatch, I'm just going to get it from this second function's argument. Okay, like this. Let's also write get state. Okay, even if it's not used here. Okay, just so that you know that we are getting this function here as an argument which we can call inside this thunk action to get the hold of our current state of the app. Okay, so now we are done with this. Okay, and also make sure to just restart your app because we have just introduced a new slice. Okay, so I'm just going to basically open up my terminal. Okay, I'll just restart my app. Okay, so let it do its job. in the meantime we can just navigate to this pages folder, okay, and then go inside auth. And as you know, our objective is to basically integrate login endpoint. So I'm just going to open up this page which is known as login, and here we'll have to go inside this login form. Okay, so I'm just going to right click on it and then go to definition, and you can see here we are on our login form. So what we really need here is to basically start making that API call in this try block when this on submit method is being called. Okay, and this data is basically going to give us an object, okay, containing these two properties, the value of email and password. And please make sure that this email and password, these keys are exactly same that we have defined in our API call. So if you go back to our server file, okay, inside this route and click on login and go to definition, then you can see that we are expecting these two properties, email and password, from the request body. Okay, so that is very crucial. Okay, so please make sure that you follow the same name on the front end and back end. Okay, now after that we just need to basically dispatch this action, okay, that we just created here inside Auth.js. Okay, so we have created this action login user. We just need to dispatch that when the user submits the form. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll just create this dispatch using use dispatch from React Redux library, and then inside that we'll be passing login user action. Okay, login user action from, as you can see, redux slash slice slash auth. Okay, like this. And here we need to basically pass the form values as an argument, and that is going to be simply this data. Let's also fix this dispatch. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'll go to this component, okay, top of this component, and then we can just create it like this: dispatch is equal to use dispatch, which is going to come from React Redux. Okay, now I'm just going to again format this file, okay, and save it. After our app is compiled, let's actually visit our page. Okay, and now if I start making API call, then we'll have some response. Okay, so let's actually open up this terminal. For that, let's open up this inspector tool for that. Okay, then I'll open up this console, and please ignore this is just some warning message from our UI. Okay, so I'm just going to clear it up, and since we are logging in the response, so we'll be able to see that here. Okay, so now if I just keep this default password, okay, and email, as you can see, and these are incorrect values, then we must get some response. Okay, and here you can see we are getting this response from our backend, which is basically saying error bad request. Okay, and here you can see we have lots of other things. Okay, inside this response we have this data. Okay, here you can see we are getting this message and status. Okay, so this is useful for us because we'll be showing this to our user like email or password is incorrect. Okay, and in case there is an error, then we'll be showing the snack bar in red color. Okay, as I demonstrated to you, and here you can see we are getting this status code of 400. Fine, and now let's also try this again with correct email and password. So as you have just watched in this video, I used this email, okay, and the password was 123456. So let me write that here and let me show it to you that we are using that same password here. Now if I click on this login button, and if you go back to your console, okay, then you will be able to see that in this case we are getting a successful response, okay, with the status code of 200. And if you open up this data, then you can see we are getting this message which is logged in successfully, and the status is success in this case. Okay, and that here you are getting your JWT token. So this is how we are going to make API calls. Okay, now we just need to make some changes inside this auth action that we have created here in order to log in the user. So what we are going to basically do here is we'll be basically updating the value of this is logged in and token. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. So in order to do that, we just need to basically dispatch this reducer which is called login, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'll just use this dispatch which we are getting as an argument inside this second function. Okay, and then we'll have to just call it like this. Okay, then In order to access this login reducer, we'll have to basically use this slice. So I'll write slice dot actions, okay, and then the name of the reducer, that is login. And here you can see in the action dot payload, okay, you can see we are expecting these two properties, is logged in and token. So we'll just have to pass that here, okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'll set the value of is logged in to true, okay, and the value for token is going to be derived from the response that we are getting back, okay. So here I'll write response dot data dot token, okay. I hope this is fine for you, okay. Let me format this document, and that's it, okay. Let me save it. And now if you just go back to your application, okay, and if you open up this Redux dev tools, okay, and here you can see this auth slice, okay, and the value for is logged in is false. There is no token currently stored here. So if I just click on this login button right now, okay, then again we'll be getting this error, okay, this error response 400. And let me just again correct this. Let's also correct the password here. I'll just save it, okay, so that it's auto filled from the next time. Now after clicking on the login button, here you can see we are getting this response again. And now if you open up your Redux DevTools, then you can see the value for is logged in is changed to true, okay, and the value of token is also stored here. If you just click on this diff tab, then you can see when this action is dispatched, or this reducer basically login, okay, inside this auth slice, then what is updated inside this auth slice, these two properties, is logged in is basically transitioning from false to true, and token is transitioning from an empty string to this string that we have got back from our response, okay. So that is the whole point here. And the expected behavior when logging in a user is to basically put the user onto our main page, that is slash app page, when the user is logged in, okay. So let me show it to you how we can do that. So first of all, I'm just going to close all of the open files here, okay, so that it's more clear to you. And I'm also going to collapse all these open folders. Now as you might remember, we have added this condition here inside our dashboard file, okay. So you can see we are using this hard coded value, which is authenticated, okay, and this is not actually the correct way to do it. We'll have to use a dynamic value, okay. So now the variable for which is now the variable which is going to indicate whether the user is logged in or not is logged in, okay. This value, as you can see, is logged in inside this auth slice. So how we can get that here? We just simply have to basically use this, okay. I'm just going to write it like this: const is logged in. We are going to destructure it from an object, okay. So let me tell you how we can get hold of that object. We just have to use this method use selector, not a method but a hook, okay, which is going to come from React Redux. And here we'll have to just pass a callback. So as an argument to this callback, we'll be getting a state, okay. From this state we can just access this auth slice, and since that auth slice is going to return an object with all of its properties, so we'll be able to extract this is logged in from there, okay. So now we can just use that here, okay. And let's read what this condition is basically trying to say. If the user is not logged in, then we have to navigate the user back to the authentication screen, okay. Similarly, we'll also have to implement this change inside this main layout, which is basically meant for the authentication related pages, okay. So again, I'm going to write this statement here, okay. And then let's also get this use selector from React Redux. I'm going to remove this property is authenticated, okay. And in place of this is authenticated, I'll just write is logged in, okay. So what this condition is going to do, if the user is logged in, then it is going to navigate the user to slash app. Let's see if that is working, okay. So here you can see our user has been navigated back to this slash app page, okay. Due to some reason our page is not appearing. Let's actually see why that is happening. So here you can see it is complaining about this property open inside this general app, line number 24, okay. So this is just because we have introduced this new state here, okay. inside our store. So what I'm just going to do here is I'll just clear up this Redux store, and we can do it like this, calling this window.localstorage.clear here, and then clearing the cache. Okay, now if I just try to log in again with the new password 123456, then you can see we are able to log into our application. Okay, so this is it for this video. In the next one we'll actually see how we can log out of this application. Okay, and that is very simple. We have already created a reducer for that. We just have to dispatch that while clicking on this logout button, which is going to basically update the value of is logged in to false and token to back to its default value, that is empty string. Okay, and then we also have to explore how we can start resetting the password and then registering the user. Okay, so I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching this video, and please make sure to like this video and also comment. That is going to basically support this video in order to reach more people. I'll really appreciate that. And if you haven't joined the Discord server yet, then you can just join that by using the link which is given in the description box. That's it. Thanks for watching. Let's meet in part 22.